Pride, Person County Pride welcomes y'all. We're so glad to have such a good turnout. We appreciate y'all coming in. I want to thank the students that came from both RCS and from Person High. They're listed on the back: Anderson Clayton, Ivy Emmerich, Taylor Foote, August Howerton, Baylor Howerton, Annie Short, Dwayne Vaughn, and Amber Long and Ayla Dunn. And we really appreciate their coming and helping us. The forum is going to go so that each person will have 1 minute to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about them. You have the questions on your sheet. Unfortunately, the U.S. Senate and House people were unable to send a representative tonight, so we'll skip over those questions and go to the North Carolina House and Senate. So they'll have 1 minute for introduction, then they'll have 3 minutes to answer the question, and then when their group is done, they'll each have 2 minutes to come back and give closing statements, however they want to use that. I just found something that I thought was interesting, and I want you guys to think about it while you're listening to them. I borrowed it from the Code of Conduct for the Board of Commissioners. Candidates should demonstrate the highest standards of personal integrity, truthfulness, honesty, and fortitude in all their public activities in order to inspire public confidence and trust in county government. Candidates should participate in establishing, maintaining, and enforcing, and should themselves observe high standards of conduct so that the integrity and independence of their office may be preserved. So I hope you'll consider that while you're listening to what they have to say. I'm now going to turn it over to Anderson Clayton, who will be our moderator for tonight. Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to turn it over to Faye Boyd. Faye, who's going to do the invocation. Sorry.
May we pray. Almighty Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, sovereign over all the universe, Father, we're so thankful that we live in this country that has been blessed richly by you in its history since its foundation, founded by Jehovah-loving people, people who worshiped you, people who feared you. Father, I pray that you will give us wisdom in electing officers, officials who acknowledge your holy word, and that they will use your word as a guide in making decisions for this country on a local level, state level, and a national level. We pray that they will create an environment of unity, national and local safety, opportunities for employment, ingenuity, representatives that honor godly family values and education. Father, as our 28th president said, in his time, the statement stands today. There are a good many problems before American people and the president. And he went on to say, I expect to find these solutions to those problems just in the proportion that I am faithful in the study of the Word of Jehovah God. Father Almighty, let us guard against the dangerous error of making decisions in the flesh and forgetting your sovereignty over us. May our principles be pure, our conduct prudent, for Jehovah God is our only sure trust. Father, we know at this time that our country faces many, many challenges. May we assert our trust in you for the healing of this country through the authorities that will be chosen. But may our trust be in you, for man has a deceitful heart. But we pray for those who are willing to be candidates. Those who are chosen will understand the needs in this country and the sovereignty that you have over us. Father, we pray that those who are elected will put aside their selfish goals, ambitions, political policies, that they may consciously choose to do what is right in your sight. Holy God, give us discernment as we go to the polls and vote for our candidates. Father, I just thank you for those who were willing to run for the various offices in this country, a great country that we live in. And Father, may we honor them, show them respect as they speak tonight, and may we listen carefully to what they have to say. Thank you for blessing us individually and as a country. It's in the name of Jesus Christ I pray. Amen.
Hello all, thank you for coming out tonight. I am your moderator for this evening. My name is Anderson Clayton and I'm a senior at Roxborough Community School. First, we would like to invite the North Carolina candidates running for state senate to come up and do a 1-minute introduction, and we will start with Senator Woodard and move on to Mr. Joubert.
Good evening. I'm Mike Woodard, and I'm proud to serve as your state senator for the past 2 years. As your senator, I've fought hard to protect those things Person County residents value: a strong education system that serves our students and respects our teachers, protections for our family farmers and timber growers, economic development that helps our small businesses and brings new jobs, fair pay and retirement for our state employees, and clean air and water, as I was the co-author of the legislature's toughest coal ash cleanup bill. But many politicians in Raleigh have fought against our values the last 4 years. And on top of that, they've tried to take away your ability to vote. But I've stood strong in the face of this adversity, remaining your advocate in the General Assembly for more jobs, better education, and an improved quality of life. In the upcoming November 4th election, vote for strong, effective, experienced leadership. I respectfully ask for your vote for re-election to the North Carolina Senate.
Good evening, Person County. How's everybody tonight? Well, it's good to be here. I want to thank those who put this event together, Mrs. Hill and all of the others that worked so diligently and so hard to have this event. My name is Herman Joubert, and I am a follower and a servant of my Lord Jesus Christ, and I intend to serve you, the citizens of this county, and with dedication and with fervor, with strong leadership. I want to be your voice in Raleigh, a strong, consistent voice, because I believe in you, the people. And I believe that within you, because the same God that created me created you, and inside of you, you have creative abilities to take charge of your own lives, which I don't believe is necessarily the role of government. Government has its place, but I believe that that you can take control of your lives. And what I intend to do is go to work with the Legislative Assembly, but I will be working for you, the people. Thank you.
We will begin our first round of questions, and each candidate will answer 3 questions. So we will start with Senator Woodard first, and then Mr. Joubert for our first question. How will you protect North Carolina's environment for present and future generations? Please give examples.
As we look ahead to the 2015 long session, I've identified what I think are going to be the primary issues we're going to face in the environment. First, you're going to see the first round of fracking rules from the Energy and Mining Commission, so I will work hard to make sure that we ensure for the strictest fracking rules that we can have. Secondly, we're going to see the first set of coal ash rules that are going to come forward. And as the co-author of the toughest coal ash bill, I'll be involved in those conversations as I was in passing the coal ash bill that we had this past this short session. One of the things I'd like to work on, and we already have a bipartisan group planning this, is to restore funding of the Clean Water Management Trust Fund. As you may know, we zeroed that out over the last two budgets. And we're starting to pay the price for that, both in terms of the quality of our water and in its limiting of our economic development. So that's a priority, is restoring funding for that. I'd like to make sure that we protect our renewable energy portfolio standards. We've had to fight for those in the last two long sessions, though we're beginning to see more industry support for those. So I hope we won't have quite the fight for that, but they're becoming more and more accepted. We've seen Duke Energy expand its use of its renewable energy portfolio, so we'll be protecting that in the session as well. One of the things we did that I thought was detrimental is that we took away local control of stream buffers, and that's an important issue here in Person County as it is throughout the 22nd District. So one of the things I'd like to do is find a way for us to restore some of the local control for stream buffers here in Person County. And then lastly, is find ways to expand funding for Diener staff. Again, over the last two biennium, we've cut a number of folks in the Diener staff, and sadly, we've not cut the guys in the suits in Raleigh who sit behind a desk. We've cut the field representatives, and we've seen that was detrimental. When we had the coal ash spill up in Eden, the manager, the regional office that serves Rockingham County, comes out of Winston-Salem. His staff meant that the staff cuts meant that he was not able to respond as quickly and have as many folks on the ground. We repaired some of that damage with the coal ash legislation that we passed this summer, but we're finding we're coming up short in other areas as well. So again, not the coat and ties in Raleigh, not the folks sitting behind the desk, but the people who are out in the field serving us. We need to find ways to restore the funding for the Diener staff.
I believe in the individual and the community. And as I foresaid, I think that government is oftentimes the problem rather than the solution. I think we can look to ourselves for solutions regarding the environment. Let's face it, everyone is in favor of clean air and clean water. We are all stakeholders in the environment. However, we may have differing opinions as to how we arrive at how we keep the environment safe. And no politician wants to risk his head on the political chopping block by even remotely seeming to oppose environmental issues. I would be careful, however, that we think that the environment must be protected at all costs. There will come a point when the cost of protecting the environment becomes a cost we can no longer live with. And I'm talking about the cost of for example, purifying the water. I mean, what is the tolerance level? Is 95% what we're looking for? Every time we go up a percentage point, it's going to cost us more. If we don't first take a look at the economy and job creations, there will be no money to cover the cost of keeping our environment safe. As your state senator, I would propose that communities and their local governments take responsibility for a safer area environment through a comprehensive and cost-effective plan to have educational literature in every home, school, and civic organization, to include, but not limited to, extra hours devoted to the environment during hunter safety classes. The plan would be presented to the state on a one-time only funding basis. Responsibility for a safe environment is that of the individual and the community.
What is your long-term state spending plan? Be specific. Where will you obtain additional revenue if needed? We'll start with Mr. Joubert.
When it comes to spending, I believe that the good people of North Carolina want their elected officials or representatives to be fiscally responsible with the tax dollars entrusted to them. It is imperative that tax dollars be spent where they will have the greatest benefit to all, and that tax increases be avoided. When we budget, it's because resources are scarce and not in abundant supply. Furthermore, we project that revenue income will be more or less, or at least as much as previous years. What would happen in the event of a budget shortfall? When we're looking down the road or we look backwards and we say, for the last few years we have collected X amount of dollars in revenues, what if that projection falls short? What do we do then? Rather than look for areas where more money can be spent, I would be looking at places within state government where spending can be cut. I believe there are some government agencies would run more efficiently by trimming bureaucratic regulations and unnecessary personnel. I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs, but you know what? Things like that happen. I've lost jobs, I've been laid off, I've had 2 companies declare bankruptcy, so I know what it feels like. I don't wish that on anyone, but I also want to be realistic. I'm a solutions-oriented person. We cannot print money, okay? So we're limited in terms of how we can generate revenue. What states will sometimes sell their debt through bonds. But I've grown up believing this old proverb that says the borrower is a slave to the lender. So why aren't we hearing more about budget surplus? Why is there not a plan for budget surplus? I would propose that the legislature look into having emergency funds made available through a budget surplus. This is doable. The state of Wisconsin created a budget surplus within 1 short year. We can do this.
My priorities for our budget in the years ahead would be first to increase funding for education, starting with our pre-K programs where we've made significant cuts, in the elementary schools, restoring funding for our teaching assistants. As you know, we have 1 year left with the second grade teaching assistants, and they will be eliminated as we begin the next school year. And we need to restore those. We gave teachers a pay raise this year, but we changed the plan in some drastic ways, and I think we're starting to see some of the ill effects of that when we're having significant turnover in teachers. Here in Person County alone, about 20% turnover in teachers. So we need to address that again, and I think that's an issue that we need to look at during the long session. Community college tuition increased 27% over the last 3 years, and it's presenting a challenge for our students here at PCC and our area community colleges. So we've got to find the resources for our community college system as well. We need to talk about funding in health care, and the one area that's of particular concern to me is mental health, where we've made some significant cuts in our mental health budget over this year. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit with the second forum we've had of mental health providers here in Person County. Chief Boycher was the convener of the first one of those, and I've been very pleased to be part of both of those. We've seen significant cuts in mental health budget, and it's really stretching our abilities here. I heard an astounding statistic that Chief Boycher shared with us. Last year, Person County had 150 committals in your county, 150 committals. Some voluntary, some involuntary. If you do the math, that's 3 a week. 3 a week. That's an incredible stretch on resources, and it's a credible resource. I'm sure the sheriff could speak to that as Chief Boycher is as well. We've got to find better solutions for mental health. Yet, the folks in Raleigh wanted to close the Wright School. Many of you are familiar with the Wright School in Durham that provides residential facility for our young people. We cut $9 million out of the school budget for special care of students with mental issues. We've got to do a better job when it comes to that one particular area alone. We've depleted our rainy day fund significantly, where it was over $1 billion 4 years ago. It's down to $651 million now. That's our savings account, folks. That's the backstop. And we've got to begin to replenish that rainy day fund, because the rainy days will come again. And finally, we need to get under the hood of the tax scheme that we passed last year. And the first thing that I want to move toward is restoring the farm equipment sales tax exemption. We raised that to $10,000, and that has been a great burden on our small family farmers in Person, Caswell, and Durham counties. And we need to take that back down to the levels that we had before 2013.
How do you plan to put the unemployed back to work and otherwise significantly reduce government dependency? Be specific, please.
Well, first of all, we need to reinstate the unemployment insurance plan that was eliminated last year. We've made a significant dent in what we owed the federal government, so we need to come back to a program where we have a solid program of unemployment insurance. We need to reinstate the Earned Income Tax Credit. This is a program that had almost a 50-year history of being very effective at the federal level and in states all across the United States. Yet we chose to do away with that program. An earned credit for those working poor when folks are back to work, and that's a real challenge for our working poor. The child care subsidy we eliminated this year, or I shouldn't say eliminated. We took the threshold down from working families of 4 who make $50,000. We lowered that threshold down to $24,000. Think for a minute how many families in Person County alone that affects, who make between $25,000 and $50,000 a year, lost their ability to have the child care subsidy. That's forcing families to choose whether parents work and if they're able to provide for the child care for their children while they work. And that forces as a real problem for folks as well. We also need to address the economic community development scheme that we've developed. We have taken, again, a lot of the control away from the local authorities in economic development, and we've centered it in this new private venture. However, we're a little over a year into that private venture, and it hasn't been going well. They haven't met their fundraising goals. They've only hired just about 60% of the staff they expected to have. So the idea behind this is not working. We need to take a look at that and get that control back here. There's that old saying, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Well, that's what you've got with rural economic development now, is we're sending bureaucrats from Raleigh up here to help you, and we're not looking for the homegrown local solutions. We need to turn that around, and we need an economic development plan that focuses on the local resources, not sending bureaucrats up here from Raleigh. Those are all things that can be done in the short term, and we can address those during the long session. Now, let's talk about long-term plans. Job training programs in our community colleges and in our public schools. We can continue to expand those. We've done a great job. Dr. Bartlett and his team at PCC and as well as the Person County schools have done those, but they're going to need help expanding those programs. And then finally, as part of the economic development, just continuing to recruit good-paying jobs here for Person County.
Okay, let's be honest. Government does not create jobs. Most jobs are created by small businesses. 80% of the U.S. workforce is hired by the small business. One of the first things I would do as your state senator is reduce burdensome regulations that discourage small businesses to take greater risks toward expansion than hiring new workers. I think that unnecessary regulations is a hindrance to the movement of new businesses. And we've seen layoffs, we've seen downsizing, we've seen reduced hours because of the lack of confidence that small businesses have in the government's ability to loosen the regulatory burdens. I believe the next great window of economic opportunity for North Carolina is in energy independence. Natural gas and oil exploration and related industries will liberate the chronically unemployed and the underemployed from economic despair and give them back the dignity lost during our state's job recession. We, back in the mid-'60s, we heard the term war on, or the phrase war on poverty. That has not been working, and the reason being is because people have not been working. I believe that people need to take back their dignity, and the only way that's going to happen is if they go to work. It's an embarrassing thing, at least for most people, to be on the government dole with no hope in the future that they will be able to take care of their own families. I believe that government has a solution, and that is we need to begin fracking in North Carolina, hydraulic fracking, and I believe that it's a safe industry. It's not 100% safe, but it is safe enough for us to begin this operation with oil exploration, natural gas. I think this is the next big economic window for North Carolina. Thank you.
Now we would like for each of our candidates to have a closing remark, and we'll start with Mr. Joubert.
My greatest motivation for running for office is to serve the people. I believe that I connect with the people. I am one of you. I'm 67 years old. I've never before run for public office. This is my first shot ever, and I believe in you, the people, and that's what I'm all about. Support me that I will be elected in November to go to Raleigh to be a strong, consistent voice for the people. I intend to have your back. And the three things that I will promise you before I sit down: that I will be responsible, accessible, and accountable to you, the people. I would appreciate your support. Thank you so much for having me.
Again, it's been a great pleasure serving as your senator for the last 2 years. We've had a chance to talk about the issues you all identified. I shared some others with you in my opening remarks. I've made it a hallmark to be accessible to you all. I've been very active here in the Person County community and indeed all across the district. My office has been very responsive to your concerns with your local governments, with your businesses, and I will pledge to continue that for the 2 years ahead as we continue to work to bring good jobs, quality education, quality health care, and a good way of life to Person County. And I would appreciate your support for my reelection on November 4th.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we will begin with the North Carolina House of Representatives. Mr. Ray Jeffers will not be with us tonight, but he has sent his wife in his place, so we are very fortunate to have her. And we will begin with a 1-minute introduction from both Mrs. Jeffers, and Mr. Yarborough.
Hello. Of course, I'm not Ray. My name is Trico Lee Jeffers, and I'm Ray's wife, and he sends his apologies. And I want to start with a quote. We live in a world where finding fault in others seems to be favorite blood sport. It has long been the basis of political campaign strategy. It is the theme of much television programming across the world. It sells newspapers, and we know this in Roxborough. Whenever we meet anyone, our first almost unconscious reaction may be to look for imperfections, and that's Henry Aaron. I'm honored and both humbled to represent Ray tonight. Ray is in his second term as Person County Commissioner and is currently serving as Vice Chairman. He is the past president of NC Association of County Commissioners and the first to hold this position from Person County. Ray is also past chair of the Rural Action Caucus for the North Carolina Association of Counties.
Good evening. I'm Larry Yarbrough, and if I'm elected to be your representative, I will take my experience and accomplishments to Raleigh and work to help our community and our state. And I have some experience and some accomplishments. I've got a college degree in chemical engineering. I've worked in the space shuttle program. I've worked in paper mills and in Dacron plants. As a small businessman, I've built buildings. I've started businesses. I have created jobs, served as an elected official. I finish these endeavors. I start something, I work on it, I solve the problems, and I finish it. And that's what I would do for you in Raleigh. I love this community. My family has contributed to this community for over many years, and I'd like to continue that tradition for the future. I've raised my children here. I will be buried here. I want to go to Raleigh and be an asset to our community. Thank you.
Now we begin with our first round of questions. How will you protect North Carolina's environment for present and future generations? Please give examples. I'm going to start with Mr. Yarbrough.
I love our outdoors. My family eats the game and fish right here from our community. I will never let anyone harm it. But we must use our resources to benefit our community. But we must protect them for our grandchildren. With sound science and common sense, we can do both. I have a background in science. I understand these issues. And I will represent you with common sense. Duke Energy made a mistake, but they owned up to it and they've cleaned it up. Coal ash has uses. It's used to make the cinder blocks that these walls are made of. It's put in the ground to firm up the foundation under buildings. As coal energy is replaced with better alternatives, the coal ash will eventually be used up. We can't have it running in our rivers. We don't allow that. We don't allow farmers to lose their farmland into our rivers. There are laws that protect our environment, and we must enforce those laws. Again, I understand the science behind the laws, and we'll use them to help protect our community. My opponent has shown that he doesn't understand business when he talks about who's going to pay for the coal ash spill. A business provides a service, and it charges customers for that service. It has costs in the wages of their employees and the raw materials that are required to make those. The difference between what it raises in prices and what the cost is the profit. A regulated utility like Duke Energy has a fixed profit, and it is small. As the cost increase, in the example of a coal ash spill, that cost has to be absorbed somewhere, and it is absorbed in the wages of the employees and the cost to the customers. There is no money tree out there. Ultimately, no matter what they say, the coal ash spill will be paid for by the employees of Duke Energy and the customers of Duke Energy. I'm chairman of the North Carolina, Virginia, Roanoke River Basin Bi-State Commission, and there is a very real threat to our river and our community, and it is uranium mining over in Virginia. There will be large ponds of radioactive tailings if uranium mining goes forward. Uranium has never been mined in an area that has this much rainfall, much less hurricanes. It has never been mined in an area with this large of a population. The Coal Hill uranium deposit is only about 50 miles away from here. I will work with our friends in Virginia and our leaders in the legislature to ensure that we do not get uranium mining just down the road from us. The leadership in Raleigh is Republican. We have a Democrat senator. If a Democrat is elected to this seat, we will not have any representation for our community in Raleigh, in the leadership of Raleigh. Thanks.
A vote for Ray is a vote for sound coal ash regulations. We are honored to have 3 coal burning plants in Person County that are great corporate partners in our community, and we trust they will be responsible partners in our community today and in the future. Ray has lived in Person County his entire life and wants only the best for our citizens, not only for today but tomorrow as well. He hunts and fish our lands and will do all he can to protect them.
What is your long-term state spending plan? Please be specific. Where will you obtain additional revenue if needed? And we'll start with Mrs. Jeffers.
Ray would first support a tax plan that would support all citizens, not just a few. The current overhaul of North Carolina tax codes has left the state budget with a $2 million deficit in its first 3 months of this fiscal year. He would examine closely the partnerships with the state and counties on ways to save money on partnering programs by soliciting input from county and city leaders. He will also voice support for education spending by asking the education lottery exactly what the intended purpose, which is for the money to be spent on education. He will do so by reinstating the required 40% funding to counties, not the current 20% they've been getting under Democratic and Republican-led General Assembly, and also allowing that money to be used for operational expenses, not just capital.
Well, I think you guys have heard from me enough to know that my long-term plan for state spending is to make it as little as necessary. People spend their own money a whole lot better than the government does. We must be constantly working to eliminate spending that is no longer serving the people well. We don't need more taxes. The state government must learn to live within its means, just like our families do. There are priorities, though, like public safety. Law enforcement and safety are the most important functions of our government. I have always supported our sheriff, our police force, our firemen, our EMS. I will work with both sides to ensure that we are kept safe and also that our justice system is just. The Republican legislature has increased education funding by over $1 billion over the last 4 years. This year, teacher pay was increased by 7%. But there's never enough money for education. It seems like every year. But the charter schools seem to do a good job with less money. I want to work with our local and state school boards, our legislators, and find ways to use the lessons from the charter schools to improve education for everyone. Medicaid spending is out of control. We're starting to get it under control a little bit, but it's still growing at over 7%. Our government didn't grow that fast in the best of times. Both sides have something to contribute in solving this problem. And I want to work with both sides to control the Medicaid spending, but also to get easier access to everyone, because we want everyone to have access to health care.
How do you plan to put the unemployed back to work and otherwise significantly reduce government dependency? Please be specific. And we'll start with Mr. Yarborough.
After the recession, North Carolina had one of the highest unemployment rates in the nation. The Republicans took over, they cut taxes, they cut some regulations, and the drop in the unemployment rate was one of the fastest in the nation. But we didn't see that here. We didn't enjoy that recovery at all. We need some help here, and we need some help from Raleigh. I want to go to Raleigh, and I want to represent our community there and bring some help back here. So everyone doesn't have to travel out of our county to work, and we can keep some of our younger people here. Again, the Republicans have power in Raleigh. If a Democrat is elected to this seat, he will not have access to the resources that the state has. That's just a fact of life. Small businesses create 80% of the new jobs, As a small businessman, I know what it takes to create jobs. Excessive regulations and taxes are particularly hard on a small businessman. He doesn't have time to be complying with all these regulations and actually doing some productive work. And speaking of overly burdensome regulations, we have this Falls Lake watershed rule that has shut down development in the southern half of the entire district. Everyone in the district is paying an extra tax so that they can have cheaper water in Raleigh. And it has never been proven that we're responsible for the problems on Falls Lake. The Democrats passed this law, and I will work to get this law repealed or changed as one of my top priorities.
By understanding that times have changed, we must now work together regionally. No more Person County against Granville and Durham counties. We should foster partnerships with our neighboring counties and promote our strengths as a region to prospective industry, and also concentrate on supporting our small businesses. We should work with our community, colleges, and schools to train our citizens for the type of jobs we're seeking. If we're not training them, they'll leave. And if we bring industry that they're not trained for, what good is that?
Now we'll have our closing remarks, and we'll start with Mr. Yarborough.
I'm not a real good public speaker, and I don't normally have a quick answer because I'm a very thoughtful person, and I like to think on something when it comes up. But I do get things done. That is the biggest difference between me and my opponent. He talks about doing things, and I do them. For the last 6 years, his top priority has been the county swimming pool. He's given it his best effort. More than half the county is behind him. The majority of the Board of Commissioners have been behind him. He spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, and he lost the senior center as we had it. We don't have much to show for it as a result. In that same time period, I built 2 medical buildings, started, ran, and sold an urgent care business. I finish what I start, and I will work for you to accomplish what we need here. Please vote for me as your representative. Thank you.
Ray is honored to serve as your county commissioner and will be honored to serve as your North Carolina House representative. He's asking for your support and vote during early voting and on November the 4th. Ray sends his deepest apologies for not being present, but he sent me an even better person to stand in the gap. Thank you to PC Pride for sponsoring this campaign forum, and I appreciate y'all listening to me.
Now we'll begin with the candidates for the local offices. Sheriff will be first, so Mr. Dewey Jones and David Brooks. Actually, nope, we have introductions first. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. You're doing a wonderful job. Hello, I am Dewey Jones, and serving as your sheriff has been one of the highest honors that I have known. I was first elected to sheriff in 2006, re-elected in 2010, and I am currently seeking a 3rd term. The support and cooperation the citizens have shown our office is what makes Person County a special place to live and work. We have a great staff, and I am proud of the many accomplishments we have made within the Sheriff's Office. With your continued support and vote on November the 4th, I look forward to continuing to serve as your sheriff for Person County. Remember, Dewey Jones for sheriff.
Good evening, everybody. I'm David Brooks. I'm the candidate for the Sheriff's Department. I live in Person County. I've been here all my life. And I'm proud to stand out, because we in America, we have choices. And I'm the one to give you the choice, give you the opportunity to make a choice in November the 4th. What is actually going on in the Sheriff's Department that I believe, or have had confirmed by many people, Mr. Jones said that he has an open door policy. And yet I've interviewed or talked with at least 500 people that's been trying to Does that mean stop? It's up.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I'm David Brooks. If you elect me, you elect the person of your peer. Vote David Brooks, early voting, and on November the 4th. Thank you.
We'll now begin our first round of questions. Knowing a captive audience will have no choice but to listen, what kind of pretrial programs could you initiate to redeem and reduce the time offenders spend in jail? And we'll begin with Mr. Brooks.
Let's face the facts. When we talk about pretrial diversions, in order that we will keep an individual from going to jail, we first have to understand that if an individual has committed a felony, we know I personally will not agree in any form, shape, or fashion to reduce his sentence by no means, whether it be suggested by the DA or the governor. I won't tolerate that. Now, if we deal with a bare minimum crime, where a person qualifies, perhaps a school student, walks in and has petty theft, something is stolen, I would say less than $20, yes, I will agree to work out some program whereas he or she can go, we get them an actual job before they are tagged as a criminal, where they can pay the victims back their money. Be responsible, not just pass through the court systems and depend on the judge saying, well, you're going to pay, and it never happens. We've seen too much of this over the years. What we've got to have is somebody's going to stand up and demand the slap on the wrist stops from Mr. Brasher. I'm the person that will do that. I will not, make no mistake, at any cost, I will not tolerate, regardless of how small the crime is, the people, my victims, being victimized again by the system, not getting their money for what they're doing, and then have to live with the rhetoric of what's supposed to be our justice system. It doesn't make sense. I'll discuss diversions, pretrial diversions, be more than glad to. But the individual that commits that crime will not have any criminal history. They will be of a certain age. The limits will be, the window will be very small and narrow. No, don't stand here, Mr. Jones or anybody else, and tell me that a person commits a crime, we should start figuring out exactly how to release them before they even get into custody. Thank you.
Working with the DA's office is a very vital part of the court systems and about people when they're spending time in jails. I, too, have to look out the victims. I'm sworn to uphold the laws and the duties, and we do have to, that's our first goal, is to keep Person County safe and keep victims out of harm's way. But people that do get arrested, there are many things already in place. One, they can have a chance to make bond. And if they're still in jail, they have a right to a speedy trial. They can request this if they go in, if they're arrested. We also have programs already in place for our teens. If they get in trouble and it's a criminal charge, they could be sent to teen court, where they are held accountable. They have to admit to what they have done wrong. They stand up, and they're not in front of a judge, but they're actually in front of other people that has been through it, attorneys, and they actually learn from their mistakes, and this has been very successful. Our DA has come up with the Redemption Program, which is a faith-based program that also gives people alternatives when they actually have committed crimes and have ways to get out of it. People that are in our jails, we have Narcotics Anonymous that comes in once a week that sits down, and people who have drug issues and drug abuse problems, that actually gives them guidance on what they can do to get help with that. We have transition groups that come into the jails that help people that are incarcerated to get help that they need, whether it's through social services or whether it's through getting rides when they get out of jail. And we also, 6 days a week, have faith-based groups that come in. We only have 1 day of the week that we don't have somebody in there. One thing we need to remember about pretrial, we cannot make an inmate that's on pretrial do anything. And we also, a person that actually has addiction problems, you can try as hard as you want to make them have to get help. But if they're not at that point, then we're wasting our time on doing that. I have too many sad stories that I could tell you where families have spent money trying to get people away from drugs. But they come to me time and time again, and it's probably 100 to 1. It's not let them out of jail, Police put them in jail, so they hit that rock bottom, so they eventually get the help that they need.
What is the most important thing that the county and your office can do to reduce crime? We'll begin with Mr. Brooks.
Reducing crime, it starts at home. I'm a firm believer in faith-based. I was brought up in the church. I know, if anyone knows, I've read the King James Version at least 5 times. So when we talk about faith-based, I'm very familiar with this. But I will not tolerate an individual commits a crime to the citizens in Person County, and then they go to jail and try to hide behind the church. It happens too often, and we have got to stand up and be responsible. We have got to hold them accountable for their actions. The question is to reduce crime. What better way is it to reduce crime than it is for anybody to cross from Durham County, Orange County, Halifax, Virginia, Pennsylvania County, or Borton, Virginia, that comes into the bounds of Person County, knowing that if they commit a crime in Person County, you're in for a long, hard time. There's no better way than punishing an individual that's going to violate our precious senior citizens, our children in Person County. And we can talk until the building drop down. The reality of it is we find ourselves too many times slapping people on the hand and telling them that okay, because they admit the crime, because they can't make bond. This is not my problem that you decide to come out and slap this young man right here and knock him down, break his teeth, and put him in the hospital. Now you admit it, and I'm worried about you getting that bond. It's not going to happen in the watch of David Brooks. I will make you a promise and a commitment. I believe in trying to reduce crime, but the way I'm going to do it, the decent citizen Person County is going to be proud of it. Because if, in the event, the wrist slapping goes too far, a lady told me tonight when I got here, she said everybody has a boss, and that is so true. All the way down to Mr. Wallace Bratcher. If I can't get it done by saying, hey, listen, here's the deal. I'm not going to deal with this. I'll talk to Mr. Roy Cooper. I'm the person like you, have never been in the circle of law enforcement with the people here in Person County. And guess what? This is a nightmare, because I'm going to break line, because I am for you. I'm for your safety. I'm the person that wants you to be able to get up on Sunday morning and go to church and can even leave your door unlocked. No, instead, Mr. Jones wants you to be able to get up, lock your door, and someone break it in, then he tells them that you did a fine job, and I'm going to have to lock you up for 2 or 3 days and help you get out. That doesn't make sense. Vote David Brooks.
This question goes right along with the next question. Drugs is our #1 problem in Person County. We have attacked the drug problem from the ground all the way up. People that are breaking into your house are drug users. The people that are selling drugs, we go after all. But the people that are selling drugs, they're not the ones out here breaking in. So the ones breaking in, so we have done several campaigns to target these areas. We have had many successful campaigns. We have put a lot of people in the cooperation with the DA's office. We have sent a lot of people to jail and to prison. Our crime rate has been reduced by doing this. There are many other things we actually do to help reduce crime in Person County. When I took office in 2006, we had 11 marked patrol cars. Our fleet has only increased by 6 patrol cars, but today we have 31 marked patrol cars. Deterrence is one of the things we can do to help to reduce the crime rate in the county. We also put equipment in the cars where officers don't have to come back into the office as often to do reports. We have computers in the cars where they can stay in the community where they're visible to where they can actually be that deterrent while they're out there, and also be able to respond to calls in a quicker manner. We have several officers that are trained in community watch. Our job is dependent on you, the citizens. You are our eyes that are out there in the streets. So we go into the communities. Any community that wants to do it, we actually help lead that, help get that started, and that has worked very well. We have Crime Stoppers. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people won't get involved because they don't want to have to go to court to testify. Crime Stoppers is the only way that a person can stay anonymous. So that is in place. It is answered in our office, but is run by average citizen. It cannot be run by the sheriff's office. But we do answer that call, and we can actually take your tips and react on them, and we have had many successes doing that. And that is some of the ways we can help deter crime.
Drugs seem to be our #1 crime problem. Education and parental control should be the two ways to deter usage by youth. What suggestions do you have that will reduce the alcohol and drug use in Person County? I will begin with Sheriff Jones.
One way we can help reduce this is get involved, and we have to get involved early. Statistics will show you that a child has a learned behavior by the age of 12. We know this, and we go out, and after that it's recovery. So to help deter this, we have to start early. We have developed several programs. One I actually helped start to develop before I even became sheriff. We applied for grants for the GREAT program. The GREAT program is for gang resistance education and training, but it also helps with bullying and also how to say no when somebody's asking you about drugs. We also do the GREAT family program, where we actually get the families involved. We get them most of the time they come here. Students that are in there, we invite them out, we feed them. We want to get the whole family involved because it does start at home. We also do the GREAT camps every summer. That has been growing. We've been servicing over 200 kids every summer that come out to the GREAT camps where we're with them for 5 days, 8-9 hours a day, teaching them, working with them, and getting to them where they actually are comfortable with law enforcement officers. We go out into the public many times. I hear it time and time again, and I hate parents to say that they look at law enforcement, they said, you do something wrong, that we're there to be the bad guy, to take them to jail. We always go out into the schools. We preach, number one, we're there to be their protector. Number two, we're there to be their friend. And last, we're there to be the enforcer. We also do the DARE program. So we have interaction in our elementary schools starting in the 4th grade. We do public and the RCS and Bethel Hill and the Christian school. We're in all schools. We're with them on the 4th grade with DARE, with GREAT. We were there on the 5th grade with DARE, and we're back on the 6th grade with the GREAT program again. It's key to get to these kids at an early age. It's too bad the cycle is repeating over and over. The parents are into drugs, the kids get into drugs. We've got to break that cycle, and we have to start at a very early age.
I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Jones that we have to start at a very early age. If I heard you correctly, the question is that parenting and education is the known two ways to get control of drugs. Is that correct? Yes, sir. If that being correct, then if I, as the sheriff in this county, I would work closely, and the deputies that work under me, we're going to hit the ground, build a better relationship between public and public safety. Right now, the public doesn't trust public safety. Something is wrong with that picture. We have to stand honestly with each other. Regardless of religion or race, we have got to treat individuals with dignity and respect. That comes from up top. You can't have the name of 5 officers floating with public abuse and expect to grow a friendship. I am going to create a better environment between public and public safety. We're going to hit the ground and fight and walk into neighborhoods, identifying ourselves, and become friends with people, the real people. Then at that point, we'll step back and take a good look, and I'll create a coalition between mental health and all the businesses around. We'll come together and try to figure out a time frame, whether it's quarterly, monthly, but we'll develop what all the means and assets that we all are already using to fight these problems, versus one of us spending thousands of dollars trying to figure out alcohol and someone else spending thousands of dollars to figure out alcohol. We'll come together where we can take 1,000, we can split the purse or the money, and we can go in different directions, but for the same goal at one table under one roof. We have businesses in this town that's itching. They would love to see us do better. We have families in this town would love to see us do better. So we're going to have to create a partnership, a trustworthy partnership in this town. It's the reality of it. The sheriff's department can't do it alone. So he's got to reach out to everybody, starting at the very top levels of places in this town, to say that we've got to do something to control the drug, alcohol, the crime that's going in Person County. Yes, Mr. Jones said crime has been declining, but I've read a report that we in Person County are twice as high in crime today as all 99 counties around the state of North Carolina per 1,000 people. Now, I don't know exactly how we might be decreasing crime, but if we're decreasing, it was extremely high.
Now we'll have our closing remarks from our candidates, and Sheriff Jones will go first.
Say thank you to PC Pride for hosting this. I started my political career, we actually started in probably 2004, preparing for 2006 election. I would like to say that it was my goal, my committee's goal, to always run a positive campaign. I will remain on a positive campaign. I like to hear candidates speak on what they can do instead of degrading other people for what they aren't doing or what they claim that they can do. I would continue to ask for your support, and I look forward to continue serving as your sheriff of Person County. Thanks.
Make no mistake, I will not, have not, I have not and will not ever disrespect Mr. Jones. I'll speak the truth. I tell the people what I plan to do, what I know is going on, and I'll tell you this for a fact. I have been disrespected more during this campaign than I have in almost 60 years of being on the planet. I have been denied. I sit at I sit at a forum in which I had attended, not a forum, I apologize. I went to a meeting I was invited to by, early during the spring, I was just slipped my memory, but the bottom line is, they called every candidate that was on the board except David Brooks. That hurt me more than anything in the world. When Mr. Jones, the leader of this town, got the highest office here, could have simply said, David Brooks is here. And I would, you know what, that would have made me feel so good. Then I stood up, and I am a Republican by choice, not by force. Put my signs in front of Republican headquarters, and they were taken down. And then was told by the Republican parties that we don't endorse you or support you in any way. That hurt me more than anything in the world. I have declared to stand up for Person County. If it kills me, I'll stand for this county. But I shouldn't have to take the abuse. And Mr. Jones, if I've said anything to offend you, I apologize, because I'm not here to do anything dirty. I don't play with the dirt. I don't deal in the dirt. But I stand for the truth. And I'm a man that deserves an opportunity to run the sheriff's department. 25 years ago, give or take some time, some things that weren't supposed to be told. If you want to talk about my experience, we had a car auto theft in Person County that bordered Virginia and Person County, and our sheriff had chased people. I'm David Brooks. Watch Channel 191, and you'll hear more of my story. Do not, if you're a supporter of mine, do not disrespect Mr. Jones. He's the sheriff of our county. Thank you very much.
We will now move on to the candidates running for county commissioner. And we will ask for a 1-minute introduction. We will begin with Mr. Kendrick.
Good evening. My name's Tracy Kendrick, and there's a few things that you need to know about me. I work for Duke Energy, and I have for 25 years. I'm a resident of this county, lived here almost all my life with the exception of 4 years that I was in the Marine Corps. I served our country. I came back to Person County, and I put myself on the candidates field for Person County Board of Commissioners so I could serve this county. One thing that my mom will tell you is that you might not like what I've got to say, but I typically won't lie to you. And Mr. Brooks, I was at the campaign headquarters on Saturday, and your signs are out front. And I dare say anybody told you you couldn't put them there. Have a good evening.
I'm not going to disrespect, that's an incorrect statement. I have my signs at home, and the place of business is there right now. So I charge each one of you to drive out and look at it. My signs are not on their block.
Mr. Long, please come up and give your 1-minute introduction.
Good evening. I'm Donald Long, a candidate for Person County Commissioner, and thank you for coming out tonight. As we move along in this campaign, we are amazed by the reception and message we hear every day from citizens like you. The momentum and excitement of this campaign is tremendous, and we are on our way towards building a better future for Person County. We do not need Republicans nor Democrats on the Board of Commissioners. What we do need are concerned Personians that want to improve your situation here in Person County. Someone with a positive message that will roll up their sleeves and work for you. Someone that is willing to say what they want to accomplish instead of saying what they are not going to accomplish. Someone that will take a stand, be a leader, and stand tall for Person County. Humble servant leadership. I hope you will consider casting one of your votes for me, a Personian with experience and integrity, to represent you as your county commissioner.
Mr. Puryear and then Mr. Torian.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Puryear, and I'm running for County Commissioner. I'm running for re-election because I want to continue to serve as the conservative voice on the Board of County Commissioners. I was born and raised here, spent my whole life here except for college at the Citadel. Recently married, and I'm very much looking forward to raising my family here. Over the past 8 years, I've made decisions to make Person County a better place to live. However, there are many challenges facing this county, and I want to continue to be part of the solution. Over the next 4 years, I'll keep jobs, funding our schools, and control of wasteful spending as a top priority. Those were the same priorities that I had 8 years ago when I was first elected in 2006, and they've not wavered since. So on November 4th, I ask for your vote for County Commissioner.
Good evening. My name is Jason Torian. I'm running for County Commissioner. I was born and raised right here in Person County. My wife and 3 boys, we live in a little community called Searle, which is just outside of Mount Tirzah, Allensville, and Flat River. So we're down in that southeastern part of the county with a lot of the rest of y'all. So I want to take my time to actually speak to the members of PC Pride and say thank you for being a champion of the environment, not just for our community, but for the entire county. Thanks for standing up for the citizens and being good stewards of this beautiful county that God's given us, even when our county commissioners sometimes refuse to. So I look forward to answering the questions, and thanks for having this forum.
What is your position on the Senior/Recreation Center? How do you propose to fund it? I'll begin with Mr. Torian.
I want to make it clear, I know it was said earlier tonight when someone had mentioned the rec center, I think it was Mr. Yarborough. The rec center doesn't belong to Ray Jeffers. It doesn't belong to the members of the Board of Commissioners right now. It belongs to the citizens of Person County and to the board that put it on the ballot in 2008. And I hope that all of us who are running for county commissioner can agree that we're not going to put something on the ballot, put a referendum on the ballot, if we don't plan to follow the wishes of the citizens. That's what happened with the rec center, plain and simple. It's something that's been a topic of discussion in the county for many years, really most of the last 2 decades. And the citizens answered the question in 2008. So the public voted in favor of borrowing $6 million to fund it. Obviously, it won't cost $6 million. borrowing isn't the only way to fund it. There are several different options, some of them being grants. It would take 2 years to build the actual center, from what I understand, so that's 2 years' worth of grants that we have to look into. So, I mean, again, there are a lot of different ways to fund the project, but regardless of how we choose to fund the remaining debt, everyone on the stage should feel compelled to fund it, because we've been directed by the voters to do so. It's a project that the community needs to bring the quality of life here up to speed with the surrounding counties, and I believe we should look at the project just like we look at putting a roof on a school. We need it. All of our pools are private. Our seniors and our community as a whole, we need it as a community center, and that's just a fact. We need it.
Mr. Puryear.
I would only support building a senior center instead of a rec facility. It's very unfortunate how the old senior center was closed. It was personally, my personal opinion, it was political shenanigans were involved with it. This county needs to work on repairing its relationship with the city and create a partnership with them and get over the differences that we had. We've already lost a lot of money, over $200,000. We need to repair the relationship with the city, work on a joint partnership to fund it, to operate a new senior facility in the county.
Mr. Long, and then Mr. Kendrick.
I was appointed to the Person County Recreation Advisory Board in 2007 and currently serve as chairman. I'm not going to dance around the issue as some of my opponents have or will. I'll give it to you straight up. It goes without saying that I support the Senior and Rec Center, and I believe it will be a great tool to revitalize our uptown Roxborough development. As the prosperity of Roxborough goes, so goes Person County. Our seniors deserve a safe place to exercise both the body and the mind. Some have voted constantly against this project. That's their pecking order. Seniors and youth are last, and somebody else's trash is number one. There are several options on funding. There are other possibilities besides borrowing and repaying with property tax dollars that have been mentioned to the Board of Commissioners to generate a portion of the funds for this project, which merit research, such as increased revenue from recycling, grants, or renegotiating the landfill, or building our own landfill. Now listen to what I'm about to say. Believe it or not, Republicans do not corner the market on fiscal conservative values. And don't take my word for it. Look no further than all the new fees that were imposed by our General Assembly this past summer. Taxes, or the $1 billion highway bond proposed by my governor last week. Taxes. Yes, that's billion with a B. And all those funds will be spent in places like Charlotte, Raleigh, and Wilmington. But I assure you, this current General Assembly has proven to us not here in Person County. Person County needs to keep our tax rate as low as possible to remain competitive. The state recommends each county maintain a minimum of 8% of its fund balance. Person County, for decades, has routinely maintained a fund balance in the neighborhood of 15 to 25%. And you got it, all with a Democrat majority on the Board of County Commissioners. Well now, and all 5 commissioners have been held to line to have no tax rate increase, and I'll endeavor to do the same if elected. No one wants to raise taxes, so don't be fooled by all that baloney about a conservative voice has to be a Republican. Responsible, reasonable, and accountable. Governor Jim Hunt had it right when he said, if we do it right, we can have the best education, great recreation, and big industrial development. You will be surprised what we can accomplish if we all trust one another, work together, get involved, regardless of party affiliation. We can and should work together to make Person County the best it can be. Who could resist that?
I told you earlier that I was going to tell you what the truth was behind what I say, and you may not like it. I really think that our seniors deserve a place to go and gather, exercise, and be one in our county. However, we've spent money in other areas in this county that hinder us from doing things for individuals such as the seniors. We had a recycle center that was working on a lease program, and it was working fine. They were taking recyclables in, and they were getting them to the places that they needed to be on a lease program. A lease program in our county leaves the land and the property in the individual's name, and he pays taxes on it, so we get some return from that property. When we buy that asset, we take it off the tax books, and it becomes a liability. We don't get any tax money from that anymore. So when we did that, we spent $2.3 million on a facility that we were already using, and that took money out of the senior center and the rec center. Thank you.
Knowing that the landfill contract will expire in 2017 and that Republic plans to expand coverage to include the whole state of Virginia, which of these options do you believe will be the best for the citizens of Person County? 1. Renew the contract. 2. Build our own landfill and reduce our waste stream by increasing recycling to the state goal of 40%. Or 3. Work out a partnership with sister county, Granville. While explaining your answer, also tell this assembly if you support the current recycling center. And we will begin with Mr. Torian.
To answer the question, I would be fine with options 2 or 3, which is build our own landfill or ship it to Granville. Because even if we built our own landfill, it would obviously be much healthier because we could decide what goes in it. We know there's some dangerous things that are going into the Upper Piedmont landfill, and coal ash is only the beginning. We know they're taking an awful lot of trash each year, and it's very likely that they're taking more than they say. Because as far as I know, we don't have any kind of monitor out there as was suggested in the strategic plan for the county. So their tonnage is essentially being self-reported. We know they're interested in taking in even more trash from other locations, and we shouldn't have to be the trash can for the entire East Coast. The health of the citizens of Flat River, Searle, Mount Terza shouldn't be sacrificed any further. So I say we build our own or work with a partnership with Granville. I think building our own would, quite frankly, be the most financially responsible solution of the three, and it could further the goals of the recycling center. You know, it'd be a dirty job, but for instance, you could have somebody out there getting the recyclables out, creating more revenue for the county. And that's a good transition to the second part of the question. I'm 100% behind the current recycling center. I visited every week with 2 or 3 big bins of recycling from my house, and I'd love to see them be able to expand on what they're doing. If you haven't visited Person Industries or the recycling center, you need to do so because it's a shining example of what Person County is doing right. We're providing meaningful work for disabled citizens, and it's great. And that's why it's so important that we change some of the faces on the Board of Commissioners. If we want the recycling center and Person Industries to be successful and eventually be profitable, we need commissioners who are interested in making it successful and making it profitable.
We'll now have Mr. Puryear, and then Mr. Long, and then Mr. Kendrick.
We have a landfill. The landfill's been here since 1994. It was been here long before I was ever served on the Board of County Commissioners. Out of those 3 options, I would support to negotiate a new contract with Republic Services, one that would greatly benefit Person County, much better than the current one that we have. As for the recycling facility, I think the board poorly handled the purchase of that building. We had an opportunity to buy that building for $200,000 cheaper than was originally asked. We decided to forego that because the majority of the board, wanted to go after the Brahma building with the city. With the city and this county, we're currently at a lawsuit with each other over the location of the senior rec facility at Huck Sansbury, and anybody with common sense knew that the city was not going to approve that. So we let the deadline pass and went back with our tail between our legs to the owner, said, well, we need to buy the building now. He sold it to us for $200,000 more than what we could have got it for. Then once we bought it, we realized we got to spend even more money to purchase a new roof on it. But as for the future of the center, I will not vote to close it. We've invested too much money into it, and I've personally met many of the families that would be affected by it. So let me get that point on the table. But my goal would be to make it as self-sufficient as possible. Thank you.
Recognize that environmental issues are always a no-win situation for any politician. I'll try to be as clear as possible. First, I recognize that I do not have all the answers, and that is why I think it is prudent to involve all sides, environmental, governmental, business, and our citizens, to come to the table to arrive at the best possible decision for all parties concerned. No one wants a landfill in their backyard, and I don't either. Our current residents near the landfill have taken one for the GIPA for the past 20 years or so, with not so much as a thank you or compensation. Let me say it to you now. Thank you for your sacrifice for Person County. On the Recycle Center operated by Person Industries, again, I'll not dance around the issue like my opponents. My sister was a former client of Person Industries, and I certainly support them in their efforts to provide a better life for our physically disabled citizens while being an asset to private industry and providing jobs. It is imperative that we continue to work to make the Recycle Center revenue neutral and not rely on tax dollars. The current budget for the Recycle Center and Person Industries together is approximately $2.6 million annual. Of that, approximately $400,000 is derived from property tax dollars. The remainder is state, federal, and mental health funds or grants that would not be available if they closed. Now, $400,000 isn't anything to sneeze about, but closing the Recycle Center and Person Industries would not result in a $2.6 million reduction in the county budget. The $400,000 from the tax dollars provides approximately 100 jobs and operates the Recycle Center. Which solid waste option is the best for Person County? As a wastewater and water professional, I understand that our regulations are based on the best science currently available today, which changes and improves constantly. I believe we should pursue all the options that you have listed. Last week, a candidate stated that that the longer we wait to renegotiate the contract, the worse our situation becomes. I reject that idea. Experience tells me time is on our side. Person County has a transfer station in place and a landfill available for use in neighboring Granville County. Republic has a landfill, a very large and profitable landfill that they will have to close if a contract is not renegotiated. We've all played cards as a kid. Who do you think's in a position to say, go fish? I believe it will be prudent to begin exploring all the options as soon as a new board is installed in December. Republic is not our enemy, and with trust and verification, they could be a vital and important friend and partner, but we have to go in it with our eyes wide open.
I want to start with the second part of that question and then move to the first part. I recycle at my home. I recycle at my wife's business. I have reduced our usage that goes into a landfill by about 99% from my house and from my wife's business. So I support recycling. I supported the Recycle Center before we purchased it. I think we should keep it in place. I've made poor decisions in my life. I bought cars that I couldn't afford, but I had to live with it. I've made poor decisions in my life that took me back some, but I had to live with it. We've purchased this property. We need to move forward with this property. I think it was a poor decision. Other people don't. But we've got it. We've got to work with it. Now on to the landfill. Republic is a business. They're in business to make money. And to make money, they have to take in trash. It's not a beautiful, it's not a nice thing, but it's trash. So we have to put it somewhere. I dare say there's not anyone in here that doesn't have a trash can in their yard. So we have to put it somewhere. You've got a company who follows all the rules, who has license, who has certifications, and as far as I know, in the research that I've done, has never been cited for an environmental regulation from DENR or the EPA. When 2017 comes, we have to renegotiate this contract, or we have to build our own facility. Anytime government builds a facility, they have to man that facility. It takes your tax dollars and it takes my tax dollars to do that. When a corporation builds something, it has to make a profit. It doesn't have to take your tax dollars to make that profit, okay? It has to do it on its own. But if we build a landfill in Person County, then we've got to get the property, we've got to get the certifications, we've got to hire the people, and we've got to maintain that forever. You as taxpayers have to do that, okay? So we are better off giving it to corporations and companies who can maintain it and who can do it without having to take your tax dollars. I see that my time is almost up. Like I told you before, you may not like what I have to say, but I'll always tell you the truth.
One of the requirements of the Commissioner's Office is to serve on assigned committees and boards. These meetings help you to better know and serve the county's needs. Will you attend your committee assignments, and how will you meet your responsibilities if you have work conflicts? We'll begin with Mr. Kendrick.
With everything in your life, you have to prioritize things. In my life, I have to prioritize work and family. The number one thing in my life is my family. They always come first. So if there's a meeting or a committee or something of that nature that takes me away from my family and my family is in peril, then the family always comes first. When we go to work, we do the same thing. I'm fortunate enough to have a job where I can move my schedule around and where I can work around my schedule. If I become a county commissioner, I'll do the same thing there. I'll prioritize the needs of the county against the needs of my company because I need that job. I'm not rich. I've worked my way up. I do well for myself, but I'd have to prioritize whether it's a company need or a community need that's more important, because my family comes first and I need a job, and we'll prioritize it and make it work for everybody. Thank you.
Mr. Long, Mr. Puryear, and Mr. Torian.
I fully understand as a commissioner that I will serve on several boards and committees and look forward to the opportunity. I view this as an opportunity and not a chore. Time is a valued commodity and is always in short supply. When I was hired by Lock Screen in 1985, Mr. John Wayne Parrish, the president, CEO, and chairman of the board, visited Roxborough. I was a young, aspiring professional and was eager to meet Mr. Parrish. Now, Mr. Parrish was a tall, towering figure, but a very kind, humble, soft-spoken, and God-fearing man. I'll never forget his first words spoken to me, and in fact, I've always relayed them to everyone that has worked for me when I moved into management. Mr. Parrish said, "Donald, if you will do just 3 things for me, you will make me a good employee. If in all you do, if you will place God first, your family second, and Lock Screen third, you will make me a good employee." Well, I was involuntarily retired in 2013 when Lock Screen was sold. but I've always endeavored to order my life in such a way.
As a commissioner, I've served on many different boards, and they've changed over time over the past 8 years. I currently serve on the Animal Control Board, E911, High Speed Internet, Local Emergency Planning, and the Youth Council, which was just established. A lot of good has came from those boards. But in my opinion, we do have too many boards and committees that don't meet that often or rarely meet at all. But one of the most important boards that I serve on is Animal Control, and make sure that we're keeping the ordinance safe, and especially you've heard about any emergency busts that we've had involving snakes or any sorts of wild animals. So it's important for us to make sure that we have those type of ordinances on the book. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the Code Red system. Most of you probably received a phone call or a text message showing so that you'll be prepared in case an emergency situation does happen in Person County. That idea and that action came from one of our boards. I work with BB&T. It's a great company. Early in my career, I had to commute downtown Raleigh, downtown Cary, which was a haul from here, and it was a struggle for me to get to some of my meetings that started at 6 o'clock, but my employer has been very flexible and very lenient with me, and especially now that I've moved up closer to our neighboring city of Oxford, I have no problem making my meetings. Thank you.
Now, all of the older people in here know this, but to the teenagers, this is one of the hidden secrets of why your parents aren't running for office. It's hard to hold a 9-to-5 job and hold a public office. That's why you see so many retired people or business owners or people who have flexible schedules running for office and holding office. For me, I have a small business and I do some substitute teaching, so that leaves me with a lot of flexibility in my schedule. I don't, however, feel like having a typical 9-to-5 should prevent anybody from holding office. But it's up to them to work out with the county commissioners and those committees that they might serve on, work out that time so they can, fit it within their availability. Being a county commissioner is a part-time job in a sense, but if you get on, Tracy, it's got to come ahead of Duke Energy, because that's going to be your number one job, serving the people of Person County. But we all know that going into it. I'm fully aware of it, and I'll make sure I don't have any issues.
How will you protect the environment of Person County for present and future generations? Please give examples. We'll begin with Mr. Kendrick.
Our state currently has rules and laws on the books to protect our water, our air, and our environment. We on the Person County Board of Commissioners can only duplicate those rules and laws. We can do it and we'll feel good about it, but the laws are already on the books. All we need to do is make sure that we use our security in our sheriff's department and our police departments to enforce the rules that are already there. I know you see committees in state and national levels that have votes on issues, and they'll all stand up and vote for that issue, but it's just a figurehead. The rules are already in place. So my platform is 4 different things. It's taxes and keeping them at a level that we can afford. Security is number 2, providing the funding for our police and our fire departments. Number 3 is economic development. You have to have the economic development to bring the taxes in to make sure that we have the security. And number 4 is our school system, okay? We need to take care of those 4 things as county commissioners before we start working on the other things that are nice to have, but not need to haves, okay? So we take the taxes in, we provide the funds to the sheriff that gets into office, and we make sure that he is out there and he is taking care of the laws that are already on the books.
Mr. Long, Mr. Puryear, and Mr. Torian.
Recently, the Person County Board of Commissioners appointed an environmental committee. I believe it may be prudent to include city officials on that committee. We should perform an emergency watershed assessment for catastrophic contaminants as we have highways passing over our reservoirs. Person County is the beginning of 3 major watersheds, the Neuse, the Tar, and the Roanoke. Duke Energy has invested millions to bring clean air technology to their facilities and has recently completed a state-of-the-art dry coal ash landfill at their Mayo facility. My hat is off to Duke Energy for doing the right thing. As an environmental professional and knowing a little science myself, I think we should continue to push for repeal of the recent fracking legislation approved by our General Assembly. The Triassic soil basin extends into neighboring southern Granville County and imposes an immediate threat to Person County's surface and underground water resources. The American Water Works Association membership supply 80% of the nation's drinking water. 50,000 memberships represent a genuine interest in water, our most important resource. They believe hydraulic fracturing has potential for contamination of groundwater and surface water due to well contamination, improper wastewater disposal, or transportation accidents from chemical spills. It is important to note that the community must be concerned with very low levels of contamination in the low part per trillion range. Once groundwater contamination occurs, the contaminants will persist for a very long period of time. Person County has been stagnant for some time on infrastructure investment. We need to identify property for acquisition, to begin planning for an industrial park for industrial recruitment, to increase our tax base by new facility investment and job creation. I've heard others talk about jobs for the last 8 years, and give me 4 more years. Well, I'm like the movie Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. Show me the job. Stop talking about building a place to do it and walk and start talking to talk. Stop talking to talk and start walking the walk. You've got to vote yes to do it. Operating Person County government is no different than operating any other business. If you want to do more, you must define a way to increase your revenue to support those programs without increasing the tax base or tax rate. In short, we need cohesion on the Board of County Commissioners and a detailed plan, not gamemanship, and we must execute that plan fully. If elected, I can and will, working with others, execute a plan.
This past spring, I voted in favor of forming an Environmental Issues Committee where local residents have a place to voice their concerns. This is a work in progress. I'd also consider having convenient sites placed in the county where residents would be able to dispose of their waste and recyclables. In return, these recyclables may be used to increase the volume of the recycling facility and help it become more self-sustaining. But a bigger environmental concern is what the fouls and use restrictions have been placed on this county. I was there a couple years ago when we were pretty much force-fed to that. The way it happened, we were forced with some legislation from Raleigh, and the county was told, well, you're being placed with these regulations, there's nothing you can do about it. I fought it as much as I could. We actually had a public hearing with the Joint Planning Board and Board of Commissioners. That night, it was historic, but it was never reported in the paper, that the Planning Board voted 7-0 against and the Board of Commissioners voted 5-0 against. Later, we were told if we did not go in compliance with the state, the county would be fined $25,000 a day, the Board of Commissioners would be thrown in jail, and the state would take over the board. And that's the truth. We were forced to do that. So, in return, we had to handle the watershed fees. The first year, we use county money. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way it should be. Still, this is your money. You pay property taxes. You don't need an excess tax for property that you already own, especially if it's not your fault. So we talk about economic development, making it better in the county. Well, we'd probably be better off if it wasn't for 2 years ago when we fired the entire board of EDC, scrapped it, and then put people that didn't own small businesses, didn't work in the public sector. Look, those people are doing a great job right now, but the people that those men and women were dedicated. They brought companies, Eden, they brought GKN, and we need their experience. And what I would propose is to bring them back, keep the current EDC as a current think tank, but bring those experienced people that had a connection to the Department of Commerce in. Then we'd see more jobs coming in the county. That meeting was probably one of the lowest moments of my being on the Board of County Commissioners. I was vice chairman at the time, had no knowledge of it. It was put on the agenda as economic development. Usually, if you're going to a meeting, you would know what's going on. I was just told it's economic development. It wasn't in our package. Then, next thing I know, it was voted on 4-1 to kick everybody off the board. That was the day that economic development failed in Person County. And if you want to get it back, I was just bringing back the people who got you there in the first place. Thank you.
How will we protect the environment in Person County for future generations? Number one, I would say moving towards renewable energy. One of the greatest advantages as far as economic development and industrial recruitment goes that we have is our tremendous power and water capabilities. So when Duke Energy has a partner looking for somewhere to locate a solar park, we need to let it be known that we want it. As I said last week at the forum at RCS, the only way that we're truly going to solve any kind of coal ash problem and other issues related to coal power is to move towards renewable energy. On the same note, I'd like to see the county possibly look into pursuing grants that might allow us to offer some sort of financial incentives to people who are purchasing solar panels. Number two, we can push recycling. We're bringing in $150,000 per year in revenue off of only 5% of our solid waste. We might be able to get that number up to 8, 9, 10% just by simply making sure that every business in this county, beside their trash can, had a uniform recycling receptacle. That's a simple solution that could add thousands of dollars in revenue. Thanks to PC Pride for getting recycling receptacles in the schools, so now we're training that generation to recycle. So that number 5% is going to go up over time. Another thing, we got to let the community know how easy it is to recycle here in Person County. You don't even have to separate your recyclables. And at this point, they're taking plastics 1 through 7, so that means you can take everything there from a soda bottle to a lawn chair. So we got to educate the public so they know that oftentimes it's just waste of money going to the landfill. And number 3, this is something that nobody's mentioned, but I'll be supportive of public transit, and I think some of the others will as well. I'm excited to see that Pat's is supposed to be coming up with some sort of a proposal to the county commissioners later this year, and I'm excited to see what they have to say. And hopefully it'll be something that catches on and takes some of the cars off the road and reduces some of the emissions here in the county.
Now I'd like our candidates to make their final remarks, and we'll start with Mr. Long and just go down the list.
Again, I'm Donald Long, and thank you for coming tonight. I just want to take a second to address stormwater. I do have stormwater certification. Stormwater, the biggest contaminant for stormwater is sediment and sedimentation. And the Department of Transportation is the largest stormwater violation adherent in North Carolina. If you don't believe it, drive down 49 and look at all those stormwater containment basins that they have about sedimentation and stormwater. The EPA has the largest role in stormwater, not Wake County. And after the Neuse River is coming to a watershed near you, the Tar, the Roanoke, the Cape Fear, every river basin in North Carolina, the stormwater rules are coming there too. As we enter October, the days until Election Day are dwindling fast, and the momentum of our campaign is building at a tremendous pace. All across Person County, citizens understand that it's time to move forward. Our citizens are weary of gamemanship and the lack of leadership in each of our elected officials. Our elected officials should expect to be held accountable for their actions or inactions. Granddaddy always said, life is full of choices, and every choice you have or make has a consequence. If elected, I pledge to always listen to your concerns. I will endeavor to continue to be a positive role model and mentor to our youth and young adults, and be a commissioner you can be proud of to represent you. The momentum is building. A better way forward is building. Be sure to continue to follow our campaign as we enter the final weeks and as we ask for a blessing. And I hope you will consider casting one of your votes for me, a Personian with experience and integrity, to represent you as your county commissioner.
Changed the order up on me. I just want to say again, thank you to PC Pride for everything you've done, and thanks for holding this forum tonight. And I'm going to say the same thing that I said last week at the RCS forum. Only 27 votes end up separating me and Ms. Blalock in that primary this May. And I didn't run to knock Frances off of the board. That's just how things shook out. But if 14 people had voted differently, she'd be up here right now. So it's important to get out and vote. It's very important. And don't let this, what you heard tonight, be the only information that you get. Look into what these people said and look into how they voted in the past. All of our county commissioner records for the last several years are online. So you can look into what anybody said they voted for and what they say they stand for, and make sure they really stood for that when they were on the board. Other than that, I'd appreciate your vote, either in early voting or on November 4th.
I'd like to thank you for inviting me to the tonight's candidate forum. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your county commissioner for the past 8 years. This election is a very important one, where you're going to be deciding on the leaders that's going to impact your future for generations to come. This county is at a crossroads, and you will determine the path that we take. My name is Kyle Puryear. I'm running for county commissioner, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
I'm going to take one out of the playbook of Mr. Jason Torain from last week. He had a little interactive participation with the people out in the audience. And so I want to start off my final statements here by asking you guys a question, and by a show of your hands, you tell me whether or not you are for or against. So how many here are for renewable energy such as solar panels? Okay, so it's quite a few. I'm looking at probably 2/3. How many people in this audience are for corporate welfare? Raise your hands. Okay. In the state of North Carolina, we have solar panels. I work with companies that are putting solar panels in. I saw quite a few people raise their hand that they are supporting renewable energy, but they hate corporate welfare. For every $25,000 a company puts up to put a solar panel in, the state of North Carolina gives that customer, gives that client $8,750. The federal government gives them $7,500. It costs about 20 cents per kilowatt to generate electricity on a solar panel. Okay? Duke Energy generates electricity at 4.75 cents per kilowatt. So when you get that solar power at your house, and I'm not against solar power, but I am against corporate welfare. When you get that solar power, you're getting 15 cents in subsidies, where you could be just paying 5 cents to 7 cents per kilowatt. Just want to leave you with that. Thank you.
All right. I think all of you guys, you've done a wonderful job. You've raised a lot of issues. I challenge you guys to go home and check on the comments they made. It's your business to know whether what they say is the truth or not, or whether you agree with them. If you don't know what they're talking about, how do you know if you agree? I particularly thank the students for coming out. They did a wonderful job. I thank them for coming. Amanda, please, your tops. On the back of your program, you will see the early voting times. There's many of them. Take it home with you. Find one of them. Vote for the candidate of your choice. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.